I got the fire flow. Shorty getting down, going up the fire pole. Radical, in the mitten where we mad cold. I got the bullfrog flow, you a tadpole. Feel the love, feel the rush, feel the buzz, let it brush ya. Bald eagle clutch on the mic, what's up? Whistle turn me up, we on the come up. Adrenaline like the craziest drug.
Welcome to someone's favorite movie. I'm coming to you from the Pod Shack outside beautiful Bay City, Michigan, USA. My name is Randy, and with me is my intrepid partner in crime. Is that a real word? I almost said...
Well, you know what? For tonight's purposes, it sure as hell is.
I almost said insipid, and I know you're not that.
That might be more accurate.
Okay. It's Tom Coe, ladies and gentlemen. The world-renowned Tom Coe from Jake and Tom Conquer the World. They're like Pinky and the Brain. They're still going at it, you know, trying to conquer.
We're not giving up no matter how inept we are.
No, I mean, you got to conquer this world. Somebody's got to do a better job of running it.
Lord knows we would have taken care of Corona a lot differently.
Oh, topical. We're getting real topical right now.
Yes. Free limes for everyone.
Yeah. Speaking of topical, we're talking about puppets tonight. That's super topical, right?
Yes.
Yes. I mean, you know, there's so many puppets around. You can't even, geez. Seems like every time you walk out the door, you see a puppet in the air, you know, just floating around being all puppety.
Yes, there's Jeff Dunham, there's Lamb Chop, Mr. Sacco. They're everywhere.
Yeah, good old Lamb Chop. What a career she had, huh?
No shit.
I mean,
come on, she had like 50 years in the limelight.
Hell yeah. Outside of that Jeff Dunham, I mean, puppets really haven't been getting their due lately, I don't think.
Well, there's always the Muppets.
There is the Muppets, but they vanish, and that's a shame.
They still pop up every now and again. They just had a new show on Disney Plus, which I checked out the first couple episodes. I was really happy with. Oh,
is it a new show? I thought the original show was going to be on there.
That's coming, but they just launched a brand new show this past January. Other than that, no, I think you're right. I can't think of anything puppet related. Everything's kind of gone CG.
Yeah, so CG. The latest puppet movie I can think of was The Happy Time Murders, huh?
I didn't see that. I heard nothing but bad things about it when it came out, and even when I saw the trailers, I was just thinking to myself, oh, it's Meet the Feebles.
Yeah, there's a good reason for that, too, because apparently the writers of that were highly influenced by the movie we're covering today, Meet the Feebles. My God. Some critics have called it The Muppets Go Sleazebag.
I've also heard Muppets on Crack.
I would agree with both of those descriptions, in fact. We are covering Meet the Feebles today, and it's probably the grossest thing I've ever watched in my entire life, quite honestly.
It's up there. It's definitely up there.
Meet the Feebles is one of those movies that I have always heard of and always heard rumors of and hadn't experienced yet. But thanks to my friend Tom Coe, now I have.
I'm not sure if I should say you're welcome or beg forgiveness. Now, did I ever tell you how I found out about this movie?
No, please do tell.
This was in the early 2000s. I went to a Comic-Con in Chicago, and I was in line for a writer by the name of Mark Millar.
Okay, yeah.
For those of you who might not be familiar with them, he is responsible for Happy and Kick-Ass and The Kingsman, among other things. And he has a tendency to have a very warped sense of humor. Well, I got one person away from the head of the line, and the person who was directly in front of me said, Mark, I got something for you. And he pulls out a DVD. No, it was a VHS. This is how old this was, of Meet the Feebles. And you just see Mark Millar's face light up like a child at Christmas. He gets up, goes around the table, gives the guy a big bear hug, and just signs everything in existence for him. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, if Mark Millar is going to have that kind of reaction in this movie, I've got to find out what this is about. And I promptly go over to the Amazon, and lo and behold, a couple days later, it arrives in my mailbox, and wow, I could see why somebody like Mark Millar would have that reaction.
Yeah. Those Scots over there really have a sense of writing, don't they? All with a twist, like Garth Ennis, and I think he's Irish, but still.
Close enough.
Mark Millar, Grant Morrison, you guys, stop it, please.
Before we do that, do we want to talk about anything else that we've been watching?
We do.
I've actually watched some stuff lately.
Did you? Currently, I'm sending you a photograph of what I'm watching now. It's a disaster in the making. My beautiful cat Zoe is like all up in my equipment. Just
oh no.
Just like, why aren't you paying attention to me? So that's a thing that's happening. Why don't you go first, sir? What have you been watching? Because last week you didn't watch shit. I
did not watch shit. Well, my wife has been on a true crime bender.
Oh no. Does she listen to all those podcasts too?
No, she can't stand podcasts.
Oh. Thank you, Mrs. Tom Coe. We could have used your download, damn it.
But I've been watching a lot of true crime stories on Netflix. Watched the one about the Night Stalker, and
okay.
I wanted to take a shower afterward.
Mm-hmm.
I watched this thing that was on, I want to say the Discovery Channel originally, about the hunt for the Unabomber, where Ted Kaczynski was played by Paul Bettany, of all people.
Oh, wow. And
that was actually really good. And then I watched this 3-part miniseries called Fear City. It was about how the FBI took down the New York mob in the late 80s, early 90s. And I found that one the most fascinating of all for some reason, just because of the lengths that the authorities went to take these people down. I thought was extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminded you that back in the day, Giuliani was kind of a badass and he was a bit of a hero. And then I also watched a movie on Shudder called The Mortuary Collection.
Okay, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
I did see it, but, well, I haven't seen it. I saw that it exists in this universe, but I have not seen it, no.
It was starring Clancy Brown, so that was an automatic win for me.
Okay, yeah.
It was just a fun, old-fashioned anthology type of movie. Some of it went for gross-out humor. Some of it went for just the EBGB kind of storytelling. But it was one of those movies that was about storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Is the only way that I can really describe it. And for a movie that used storytelling as its central premise, I have to admit that they didn't know when to end it. It's one of those movies kind of like that last Lord of the Rings movie where they had like 3 different endings.
Mm-hmm.
But still, I mean, Clancy Brown in it was great. And I really wish that they had more mainstream anthology movies.
Oh, I do too. By the way, I can't help notice that your dog is barking in the background.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that is Louie.
Louie must hear all the cats just meowing and carousing around. It's a real farm on this podcast today. It's great.
Yes. Farmer Randy's Movie Talk.
That should be the name of the show, huh?
It should.
Yeah, I agree with that. Have you been watching that WandaVision, Tom Coe?
I have.
And?
I have to admit, after watching the first 2 episodes, I had to go out and do some research just to try to figure out what the hell it was that just went all over my television. Got a bunch of interesting fan theories, and that made the following 2 episodes a lot more enjoyable. And that 4th episode I thought was pretty cool. It's definitely making a lot of the fan theories line up in place.
Mm-hmm.
I'm enjoying the hell out of it, actually. What about you, sir?
Yeah, I like it quite a bit. I like the quirky sitcom aspect to it. I wasn't sure how it was going to play out when you actually watched it because I saw all the trailers and whatnot. But actually watching it, it really works for me, I think. And
it feels like this weird history of American television in a way.
Yeah. And the best part of it is Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany are like there for it. They are
yes
doing their goddamn best in this They're giving it their all, and that's great. And like those two characters, quite honestly, whoever gave a shit about them? But now,
I would agree with you. They were just kind of plot fodder at best.
yeah, especially the Scarlet Witch. Like, come on, she barely had a personality, but now she does, and it's amazing. So,
No, I got to give everybody involved in that show all the credit in the world for making me give a damn about them.
I do appreciate the addition of Agent Jimmy Woo, and the fact that the people at Marvel have such an eye for continuity, where they continued his perfecting of the sleight of hand card trick from the Ant-Man movies.
Yes.
I mean, that's attention to detail right there.
Did you see that meme that's going around about Jimmy Woo's character?
No.
Where people would want a Marvel television series starring Jimmy Woo, where he goes around and investigates messed up cases, and it's basically going to be a Marvel version of X-Men.
Oh, yeah, I did see that. Yeah. You mean X-Files,
I would watch
right?
that. Yes. Not X-Men, yes, X-Files, sorry.
Yeah, I would watch that too. And why not? They could do that easily. It wouldn't cost them anything to make. Why not?
No. I mean, they could even do it on the sets of the movies that are currently in production and still have it viable.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't cost them a damn thing.
No, not at all. We've got the Justice League coming up, the Snyder Cut. You excited for that?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm a DC guy. I grew up with DC comic books, but I kind of got past the idea of having a strong shared continuity in DC films. I don't care about that. Just give me good movies.
Mm-hmm.
And B, I really had a bad taste left in my mouth by the fanboys basically demanding and pouting until they got their way. And if there's one thing I hate in this world, it's people that demand to get their way and throw a tantrum if they don't.
I mean, you just described every fanboy there ever was.
Yeah, but there was just an extra layer of obnoxious to these guys.
Yeah, this is true.
And don't get me wrong, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to hopefully enjoy it, but I don't have my expectations set too high.
Oh, I'm going to watch it because I think it's going to be a shit show.
You know what? I'm walking into it completely without expectations.
Oh, I hope
I'm not expecting it to be good. I'm not expecting it to be bad. I just want to see what all the hype was about.
I think I'm one of the few that thought the movie as it was just all right. You know?
Yeah, I am fully on board with that.
I thought
it was okay.
I thought it was fine. It didn't blow my mind at all, but it was fine. I had fun with it. Why not?
Exactly. That's all you can ask for in those circumstances, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What have I been watching? Promising Young Woman is a movie that stars Clancy Brown. Well, it doesn't star him.
Hey.
It doesn't star him, but he is in it, and he plays a gentle, nice father figure in it, which is completely off a type. That's not what he usually plays.
Does he have like a dark, brooding secret that he's hiding from this promising young woman?
No, not at all. He's just a sweet man.
And this is Clancy Brown, right?
Yeah, it was crazy. I'm like, you should play more sweet men. That would be great for you. It stars Carey Mulligan. Is that a real name? God damn it. Carey Mulligan? Yes? I don't know. Somebody
you need to take a mulligan, sir?
I need to take a mulligan. I don't know if that's a real... Pookie, look up Carey Mulligan. Look up Promising Young... Armchair producer Pookie. Look up Promising Young Woman. Carey Mulligan. That's what I said 8 times and doubted myself. Never doubt yourself, Randy. You're always right. It stars Carey Mulligan. She plays a late 20-something who's basically thrown her entire life off the rails. She lives with her parents, and she was once in med school. After her friend in college gets sexually assaulted, she kind of drops out because her friend commits suicide, and she doesn't know how to deal. How she eventually decides to deal is to pretend that she's super drunk at every bar she goes to, so that men take her home to take advantage of her, and then when they try to, she promptly shows them that she's completely sober. and she enacts this wild revenge scheme about a bunch of people in the school that took advantage of her in the incident. There's a bunch of twists and turns that I did not see coming, including the ending, and I kind of appreciated that. Because you think, oh, this is a feel-good story. She's going to get all the revenge. And you could argue she does, and you could argue she doesn't. So,
almost sounds like a less wince-inducing version of Hard Candy.
Yes, I would say that, yeah. She's basically, it's kind of a rape revenge movie, like, used to be so popular with, like, I Spit on Your Grave and Ms. 45 and Revenge a few years ago, except she's not the victim. She's doing it in defense of her friend, and it's a little bit classier than that. So, I don't know. It's definitely worth a watch. I think Carey Mulligan's been getting a lot of talking about for award consideration. I think rightfully so.
All right, and where did you see this on?
It's on VOD right now. You can see it there.
All right. I will keep an eye out for it.
What else did I see? On Shudder, I saw a movie called Fingers, which was a delightfully ridiculous and offbeat comedy horror type deal where a man called Talkie Panda, he's a hired thug in a kind of like a ski mask, but it's painted to look like a panda, and he glued ears to the top. Talkie Panda, he shows up to this man's house every other day and cuts off one of his fingers randomly.
Man, wouldn't you figure that the guy would at least, I don't know, move or put a chain on the door?
Right? I mean, one day he's delightfully bouncing off, he's delightfully hopping on his trampoline, and the man Talkie Panda just walks up and cuts off some fingers. So, maybe put away the trampoline, brother.
You know what? That sounds just weird enough. It might be up my alley.
Oh, I think you would enjoy this quite a bit. There's also a female lead who works at the same office building that the man who's losing his fingers works at. And she is, like, so shallow and, like, messed up as a person that she can't even stand the sight of the fact that he's lost a finger. Like, anybody with any physical imperfections, she just loses her mind and can't deal with. So she goes to therapy for it. And all of these storylines eventually overlap and intersect. And basically, she decides to help. As a form of therapy, she decides to help the man who's losing all of his fingers. So
I think that's the least she can do after being judgmental like that against him.
I mean, right? So she takes out revenge against Talkie Panda to help the fingerless man. It's really weird and interesting, and I think my description was really weird and interesting as well. But
I do think it's interesting that you're watching not one but two revenge by proxy movies, though.
Yeah, what does that say about me?
I'm sure it's something noble.
It's got to be, right?
Has to be.
Let's take revenge against some people. Is there anything you want to be revenged? Maybe I'll take up that crusade.
Let me get back with you on that one. I'm sure that I'm petty enough to where I can think of something.
I mean, I can't believe you don't have 5 things right off the top of your head.
I'm usually a forgive and forget type of person, but, get a couple drinks in me, I'm sure that they'll come boiling right back up to the surface.
I think that's all I've been watching. I can't think of... Nothing else really sticks out. I don't know.
Well, let's face it, everything kind of pales in comparison to this movie.
Oh my gosh, Meet the Feebles. How would you... We described it before. You described how you encountered it for the first time.
I would just kind of describe it as a movie about the seedy underside of show business that uses shock humor and the absurdity of puppets to talk about things that have probably been going on in the entertainment industry for decades that we in 2020 and 2021 are just now hearing about in the public.
Yeah. Meet the Feebles.
Doesn't make it pleasant.
Meet the Feebles, believe it or not, was the second movie from Peter Jackson. It was after Bad Taste and right in between Braindead, which we covered on this program. You can check it out in the archives. I believe it's episode 3. It's the first epi that me and Tom Coe did together.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, good old Braindead. Do you remember the first episode we were supposed to do together?
No, what was it?
After Hours.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I still have that in my voodoo library, sir.
Yeah, we should get to that at some point.
We should.
Yeah. But it's about Meet the Feebles today. Boy, did I have a hard time getting through this one, sir.
I didn't have a hard time getting through it. I mean, it wasn't a pleasant experience, but I don't know. I just appreciate the fact that we live in a world where this exists for some reason.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that.
It definitely has its faults. It's far, far, far from a perfect movie. I'm not even sure if I would call it a good movie. It's not a bad movie, but it's certainly interesting, if nothing else.
I feel like it's Peter Jackson just sitting there and being like, what can we get away with next?
Well, do you know anything about the backstory with this movie?
Not really.
It was supposed to be a pilot for a Japanese television show, and the executives and financiers were so enthused by what was being produced, they said, forget it, this has got to be a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, they had a whole bunch of extra screen time that they had to fill, and that kind of shows in some parts, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that's one of the problems I had with it. To me, it kind of dragged on in some parts. I mean, there's some highly entertaining, disgusting examples of degenerate behavior in it, but still, I feel like it drags on in some parts.
No, I actually would say I had the exact opposite problem with it, in that it was moving too fast and it was throwing too much at you at once. I mean, I completely lost track of how many plot points there are.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it seems like everybody has their own huge story arc that you're trying to keep straight in your head. And it's hitting you at such a whirlwind pace that after a while, you just kind of become numb to it.
I guess that's a good point. There are a ton of characters in this, and there are a ton of different storylines. And it does seem as if he's just tossing as many puppets and outlandish scenarios as possible into it.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you hit the nail on the head where you said after a while, it just kind of felt like they were in the writer's room trying to figure out what could they do now that would be really gross and really disgusting.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because I think that there are some really funny things in here, but it just kind of gets buried under all of the other stuff.
Yeah, the entire storyline with the frog, with the Vietnam vet frog with PTSD. I
thought that was the best part of the movie.
I did too. He's clearly supposed to be a Kermit archetype, and to me, that was the best storyline plot in the movie, and it wasn't featured very prominently or for any sort of length. But I feel like that should have been the main thrust of it.
Well, I guess, I know it's going to sound shocking, but this movie was coming in way over budget and way over schedule. And they had this idea that they wanted to do that with the character. And so the crew financed it themselves and was shooting it on their own time. And if you look, it actually is filmed and lit way better than the rest of the entire film.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought that was brilliant. I thought the fact that you had a strung out, junky version of Kermit the Frog, that right there is enough to make me chuckle. But the fact that his act on the show is as the knife thrower,
Right.
and they just casually kill his first assistant. And then when they have him come back out for the main show, rather than having the assistant on the wheel that's spinning, he's just standing in front of it because even that's too risky at this point. As far as the rest of the movie, I mean, I don't think that we could possibly talk about this movie in a linear fashion because it's going all over the place. I mean, you're having things like, drug deals and rapes. You're having a walrus in various sex acts with a Siamese cat. You're having naked hippo breasts in your face.
Yep.
You're, elements of body horror. And really, that's the only way I could really classify this movie as a body horror comedy.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, there's a mix of puppets in this movie, and clearly they're trying to... All the puppets are in a show called The Feeble Variety Hour. Clearly they're trying to parody the Muppet Show. And there's a mix of practical puppets and almost like stop motion in some instances, it looks like. And then real human-sized costumes that look like they could be Power Ranger villains, kind of. And they're all mixed together. And
I gotta give him credit. The puppetry in this movie is fantastic.
I agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things I really noticed. In the midst of all these bunnies in having an orgy and masturbating aardvarks and rabbits with terminal STDs and whatever.
Cows in, bondage films, yes.
Right. There's a fly, a puppet fly that lands on a turd in a toilet and starts spooning spoonfuls of the turd out. That's great.
Which I thought was actually kind of clever because he's the character of the fly is a tabloid journalist.
Yep. He's trying to find all the shit about all the people.
And I mean, I can't condemn this movie because there's a lot of clever writing in here. I love the fact that they played the long game when it came to the rabbits storyline, where he's having group sex with two bunnies, and then the next day he's not feeling so well. He calls his doctor, who happens to be a duck, and the doc says, well, sorry, you got the big one. You have 10 to 12 hours left to live. And you see him rapidly just disintegrate in front of your eyes, where he's getting filled with boils that are oozing pus. He vomits all over the stage. He is convinced that he's going to die. He's laying on his deathbed, and he gets another call from the doctor. Sorry, I misdiagnosed you. Turns out you just have bunny pox. Yeah. That'll be $50, please.
Right.
And it took me a long time to realize, well, of course the doctor's a duck. He's a quack.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't realize that whatsoever. That's fun. There is an out of nowhere plot with a whole drug deal going on, and it involves...
There's a lot of out of nowhere in this movie. And that's kind of one of the things that I really appreciated about it, but go on.
It involves the walrus, who is like the head of the Feebles show, and he has his little flunkies, and they go there to do this drug deal, and it all goes wrong, and suddenly there's monstrous spiders dropping down and eating the heads off of his flunkies, and I couldn't help but be flash forward into that scene with the giant spider in the Lord of the Rings movies, and I'm thinking,
oh my God, yes.
How far have you come, Peter Jackson? How far have you come? And that entire scene ends with a rat as his getaway driver driving the walrus through a giant blue whale's mouth and straight through his anus after the drug deal goes wrong. So that's what happens.
There's a lot about this movie that I really enjoy, and the fact that it just keeps getting weirder and weirder as you go on, and it just keeps getting darker to the point where it's like, okay, how could you possibly get any? Oh yeah, that's how you get darker.
Yeah. It's basically the Muppets with like all the adult bullshit problems of Jerry Springer America. That's what it is. It's about
essentially, yeah.
There's a subplot where the elephant janitor denies paternity of this chicken lady's kid, and he looks into the crib and it's part chicken, part elephant baby.
I thought that was really funny, and
yeah.
the stagehand worm just says, well, obviously he has your eyes.
Right.
Never mind the fact that the chicken baby has a trunk.
Yeah. Heidi Hippo.
And in any other movie, I guarantee you, any other movie, you'd be scratching your head trying to figure out the logic of an elephant having sex with a chicken. But after you watch a cat going down on a walrus, you just roll with it. And that's what you have to do with this movie. You just got to go with it.
Yeah. Heidi Hippo is arguably the main character of the movie. It's kind of her great arc in this. She is the Miss Piggy surrogate. And we definitely see her boobs, as you mentioned before. That almost scarred me as much as seeing those duck boobs in Howard the Duck when I was a kid. And this was like 25 years later, I'm seeing these hippo boobs, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't need to see that ever again. And is it just me, or does Heidi Hippo look like the Dead Alive final boss? Quite a bit.
I could see that. Yeah.
And
you can tell that there's definitely a lot of techniques that they kind of honed on this movie that they carried over to Dead Alive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in many ways, I think Dead Alive is a more competent movie. And like,
by far,
storytelling and character development and basically everything.
And they could rein themselves in a little bit more, where they could go for the outlandish and they could go for the absurd, but they just don't take it too far in Dead Alive like they do in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And real quick, before we move on from Heidi Hippo, I got to say that I actually really enjoyed her character, because she's probably the only one that I felt genuine sympathy for throughout the entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
She started out as a 16-year-old lounge singer who met this big-time producer who lured her away, used up all her talent, used up all her good looks, and right when they finally get their big break with a syndicated television show, he dumps her for a catty little woman named Samantha, I think it was. Though I could be wrong on the name. I don't know. I can't help but feel really bad for that character.
Yeah, it was definitely her. I mean, I hate to say Meet the Feebles is a feminist revenge story, but it kind of is a little bit.
I think it absolutely is, yeah.
Because at the end of the movie, she gets revenge on, well, the entire Feebles show, really. She pulls out a machine gun and guns down a great majority of the cast.
Pretty much all but 3 members, if I'm thinking correctly.
Yeah, the elephant janitor is one of them. He's just got some bum knees after that, but
yeah.
I can't remember the other 2, but
there was, I think her name was Deborah or something. It was the dog that was falling in love with a hedgehog.
Oh, yeah. Lucy, I think.
Yes, Lucille.
Yeah.
Lucille.
Yeah.
And they're kind of the innocents. They're people who just joined the cast, who haven't been hardened and calloused by show business yet, and their eyes are still full of stars, and they're suddenly being exposed to all this awful stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and at one point the dog gets drugged by the rat and almost gets raped on film.
Yes, because the walrus needs a new starlet for the porno films that they're, filming on the side, and so that was the rat's audition process.
Absolutely. This is the movie we're talking about.
And honestly, I can't help but I don't think that this could have been made today.
No.
But I do have a feeling that this was the product of somebody who kind of broke into show business, saw what it was really like, and became completely disillusioned, and just decided to talk about all the fucked up things they'd heard about in the movie industry, except they disguised it in just a certain way that makes it seem unbelievable. But again, looking at it in 2020 vision, I can't help but see Harvey Weinstein as the walrus.
Absolutely. This is the perfect Me Too movie. It
is.
I mean, just yesterday we have women coming out against Marilyn Manson.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's still going on. All these men in power thinking they can do whatever they want with no repercussions whatsoever.
Exactly. And I'm not saying go out on a kill crazy rampage or anything like that, but definitely hold these people accountable.
Yeah, exactly. Meet the Feebles is an outrageous puppet movie, but it's not the first. I was going to watch this beforehand, and I did not have time, unfortunately. But the first outrageous puppet movie that probably influenced this one a little bit was called Let My Puppets Come from 1976. Have you heard of this?
Let My Puppets Come?
Yeah, that's right.
I'm almost afraid to ask, but what is this?
It is from 1976. It's a movie about, well, puppets having sex with other puppets and puppets having sex with humans.
I'm surprised that it took that it was filmed that early on.
Yep.
That sounds like a product of the 21st century if I've ever heard one.
Yeah, it was released the same year as the first season of The Muppet Show, and it was referred to as a sexy Muppet movie. It was also directed by the same guy that directed Deep Throat there, which is
really?
Yeah. Have you ever seen Deep Throat?
No.
Oh, I know. You're a classy man, so.
I wouldn't go that far, but just not my thing.
No. I have seen it, and it's worth it for the outrageous plot device that they use. Do you know the plot? Should I even be talking about this on this podcast? My God.
It's your podcast, sir.
It's our podcast, damn it.
Well, you have my curiosity piqued, sir.
Well, the entire conceit of Deep Throat is there's this woman. Get off me, cat. There is this woman who has her clitoris in her throat. And so, obviously...
Wait, okay.
Yeah, that's the entire premise behind Deep Throat. So, obviously, she has to give all the beegers.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's incredibly stupid.
Yeah, well, I mean, at least it tries to have a plot, I guess. I don't know.
The thing about that era of adult entertainment that always just kind of makes me scratch my head is that for maybe 2 weeks, it was totally mainstream, where not only were you having couples going to the theater to see these movies, but you were having A-list celebrities like Johnny Carson and Liz Taylor going out to see Deep Throat.
Absolutely. I remember my mom saying that her and my dad and my grandma and a couple of my grandma's sisters went to the movies to see, I think it was Debbie Does Dallas. It was like at a regular movie theater. And,
oh my God.
And they had no idea. My mom claimed she had no idea what it was or whatever. And they went and I guess my mom walked out because she was like, oh no, I'm not dealing with that. But it was just at a regular.
That certainly beats my awkward teenage story at the movies with my parents.
Oh, do tell.
I was in the 8th grade, and my dad gathered me and my stepmom up to go see Basic Instinct.
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh, that was so fucking awkward.
Yeah, right? Wow.
Yeah, all I remember about that movie was try not to make eye contact in the theater.
Right? Because that movie is all sex, really. That's like all it is.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely a softcore porn disguised as a mainstream movie. I think that's fair.
Yeah, that's probably a movie I need to see again because I haven't seen it in probably 20 years, I guess.
Yeah, I'd say that's about the same time that I've seen it. I don't remember. I mean, even when I was a kid, I remember thinking, it wasn't that good.
No. My favorite thing about Let My Puppet Come is the Wikipedia, which is a sentence I just said, is the Wikipedia entry that describes the plot. And the plot that they list is owing a mob boss $500,000, which must be paid in 24 hours. A group of execs come up with ideas for and films a pornographic movie. And if you know anything about Deep Throat, the history behind it, it was highly influenced by the mob and may have...
Yeah, it was a money laundering scheme, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So the fact that the director of that movie or he directed this movie and wrote it, and he was involved in Deep Throat in some way. I don't know how. But the fact that he turned that experience into the plot for this kind of makes me laugh.
Oh, man, I'm going to have to... You know what? This is going to have to be an episode of Jake and Off or Jake and Tom Conquer the World.
Right. It was released on Vinegar Syndrome. You can find it other places, but Vinegar Syndrome released the uncut version, which is 75 minutes long. You can find the cut version, which is only 45 minutes elsewhere, like YouTube and such. But yeah.
Now, speaking of mainstream pornos, have you ever seen that uncut version of Caligula starring a way better cast than a movie like that deserved?
No, I've heard all the rumors and innuendos about Caligula, but I've never seen it or any version of it, really.
It's a terrible movie, but it was when the publisher of Penthouse magazine wanted to go mainstream, and so he hired I want to say Gore Vidal to write a big sprawling epic based on Emperor Caligula, which for all you history buffs out there knows that he was a particularly debauched Roman emperor, kind of guy that had his horse serving as his advisor. And they filmed it with I can't remember who it was that directed it, but it's starring Malcolm McDowell and Dame Helen Mirren, Peter O'Toole, and a couple of other really big name British actors. And it was okay, but Bob Guccione Jr., the publisher, said, you know what, it's not sexy enough. So he goes back to set, unbeknownst to the director, films a bunch of explicit hardcore sex scenes and edits them into the film, and that's what got released to the public.
Yeah.
And there is nothing titillating about that movie at all. It's just uncomfortable from start to finish.
Yeah.
And it's something like 3 hours long, too, which is even worse.
Bob Guccione founded Penthouse. Bob Guccione Jr. founded Spin Magazine. So figure that out.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I got to get my gooch straight. Sorry.
You got to get your gooch in line, brother.
Yeah.
That reminds, I saw a movie called Thriller, A Cruel Picture, which influenced Kill Bill.
Is that the full title?
Yeah.
Thriller, A Cruel Picture. Okay.
Yeah. It influenced Kill Bill quite a bit. So that's the reason when it was released on DVD, that's why I bought it.
Okay.
And it's your basic rape revenge movie. However, it's interspersed randomly with hardcore graphic porn. The rape scenes are shown in full as hardcore graphic porn.
No.
Yeah, it's really something. I'm like, why was that the choice that was made? That's a bad thing to do. Ugh. So it's a very hard movie to watch. As hard as you think I Spit on Your Grave is to watch, this is like 10 times harder because...
Yeah, you know what? I have zero interest in watching that. I mean, even the movies that I don't watch that you suggest, they're at least on my radar now. And if I come across them, I'll check them out. But no, I don't want to watch that.
No, yeah, I have it on DVD though. So if you want to borrow it,
I'm good. I don't need to be on any watch list, sir.
okay, fine. I don't know how we went off on this tangent, by the way, but here we are.
You know what? It's podcasting gold.
Yeah, right. I don't want to make this segue, but
you're going to.
Yeah, I am. There's only one human member of the puppeting cast, and it's a yoga master who's a highly offensive stereotype who also gets his own head stuck up his ass.
That's another thing about this movie is, and I think they did it intentionally, where they set out to make the most offensive movie possible, whether it's offending women or offending people who have issues with substance abuse. They go full-fledged and have racial stereotypes, not only of Indian people or Pakistani people, I'm not sure, but I think there were moles that were in Vietnam.
Yeah, it was hard to tell what they were supposed to be,
but they were dressed up with very offensive Asian stereotypes. Not gonna lie, I still laughed a little bit because of all the Vietnam movies I grew up watching.
Mm-hmm.
But it was wrong.
Yeah, super slanty eyes as well,
buck teeth, and
yeah,
they had the I mean, just the fact that you're having a puppet parody of the Deer Hunter is enough to keep me. It's like, okay, I can get past that. Let's focus in on this fucked up thing.
Right. Yeah, I think... How am I going to phrase this that doesn't get this podcast canceled? I think there's a way to do offensive things and do it in a way that illuminates problems in the normal everyday society.
Yeah, and again, I genuinely think that there was some honest satire in this movie. As offensive as it is pointing out a lot of absurdities in the entertainment industry and in a lot of things of society as a whole.
Yeah.
That's why, yes, it's clearly that they like definitely meant to be offensive, but I think they meant to be offensive with a purpose in this movie.
Yeah. Peter Jackson is too smart to do dumb things.
Exactly. Well, he's not above sophomore humor, obviously, just watching this movie.
Right.
But he does it in a way that has a purpose. It's like if South Park had continued to be the same type of show it was in its first 3 years,
mm-hmm.
it would have become very irrelevant. But the fact that they did it in a way that leads to discussions on certain things, I think is why it's still airing 20 plus years later. And that's why I think that there's plenty of merit to this movie. The thing is, I just don't think, I think it was probably just 20, 25 years ahead of its time.
Mm-hmm. For what it's worth, the show closing number is a fox singing about sodomy. So that's a thing that happens.
And here's the thing, the musical numbers in this movie are all actually pretty decent, catchy songs.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. The sodomy song is very catchy. I can't believe I just said that.
But I thought the one with the full band, the One Leg Missing song, I thought that was... I could see that being sung by Dr. Tooth from the Muppets.
Right. I've always thought, after I saw like live videos of Shel Silverstein and Dr. Hook, and because Shel Silverstein wrote all of Dr. Hook's music,
mm-hmm.
I always thought that Dr. Teeth was based on Shel Silverstein.
You would be wrong.
Am I?
He was based off of a Creole singer from New Orleans by the name of Dr. John.
Why would you correct me on this podcast? That's not what you're
Because
supposed to do.
Dr. John was fucking awesome, and I will stand up for him any day of the week, twice on Sunday, sir.
Fine. I don't know what a Dr. John is, but okay. Danny Mulholland was one of the writers of Meet the Feebles, also the man inside Heidi the Hippo's bodysuit.
Okay.
Yeah. He actually got a Japanese award for best female performance in a movie.
Oh, that's great.
He says, I've got a Japanese award for best female performance. I was on stage with two heroes of mine, Chow Yun-fat and Donald Pleasance. But I was stuck in a fucking hippo suit with a machine gun. I would have loved to have said hello, but I remember Donald looking at me and saying, Are you hot in there? It was a very bizarre experience.
I'd imagine it's bizarre for Chow Yun-fat and Donald Pleasance, too.
I mean, you're winning Japanese awards and you're on stage with this weirdo in a hippo costume carrying a machine gun. Yeah, I would believe that's very weird. I also am very curious about what Chow Yun-fat and Donald Pleasance won at that same award show, because what an odd mix.
Yeah, that's a table I would love to eavesdrop on at the after show.
Absolutely.
Now, one other little bit of trivia that I would drop about this movie is during the live performance, they have a shot showing the audience, and there's an alien in the crowd. Turns out that is Peter Jackson wearing one of the masks from Bad Taste.
Yeah, which I feel like we'll probably cover at some point.
We're gonna have to. We got to clean up the trilogy at one point.
Yeah, we also have to finish off our Gene Simmons '80s trilogy with the movie Runaway.
Yes, yes. We need to do that. Yes.
In which Tom Selleck is an action hero.
Isn't he always?
I mean, with a mustache like that, how can you go wrong?
No. I mean, Captain America has his shield. Batman has the Batmobile. Tom Selleck has the stash.
I mean, I can't think of anything better to defeat evil with it than that mustache. I really can't.
No.
What's your final verdict on this movie, sir?
I would say this is a movie that everybody should watch. Just walk into it knowing that you're going to see a lot of fucked up shit. Roll with it. Just keep watching it. It's a love it or hate it movie. I'm kind of talking myself into loving it. I hate to say it.
I feel like as the podcast goes on, you're loving it more and more.
I am. Just because it's, again, I appreciate the fact that I live in a world where this exists.
Yes.
And the fact that this guy went on to become an acclaimed director, winning multitudes of Oscars, and can have his pick of any film project he wants. And how did he get started? By having a walrus fuck a cat.
Right. I wish that I had seen this movie in my 20s, because I think I would appreciate it a lot more these days.
Yes.
If that makes sense. I mean,
I think that's fair.
Yeah. I'm glad I saw it, because I have heard of this movie for a very, very long time, but it wasn't necessarily my cup of tea. I appreciated some of the humor in it and some of the wittiness, but I don't know. It didn't hit me this time. I'm sorry, Tom Coe.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Do I lose my privileges to choose movies now?
Yeah, it's over. You're done. You're done.
Damn it.
Yeah. However, I mean, it's February, Tom Coe. It's the month of love. Did you know this?
It is.
I did threaten to do this to you, and I'm going to. We're covering a love movie next time.
You know what? After this, I think I deserve it.
It's called Unmasked Part 25.
Oh? Do I need
yeah.
to watch 1 through 24 for it to make sense?
Nah, I don't think so. It's a very obscure little scene movie about well, let's not even pretend. It's about Jason Voorhees and what happens when he finds love. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's what we're doing next time. I hope you're happy.
I look forward to seeing this, sir.
I hope so, because it's a hoot. In the meantime, where can people find you on this world wide web of ours?
You can find me on a little show called Jake and Tom Conquer the World. We talk about everything from beer, booze, comic books, and movies to pretty much everything in between. You will be able to listen to us on iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, anywhere you can find a podcast. If you want, reach out to us on Facebook at Jake and Tom Conquer the Group and on Twitter at The Drunken Dork. Randall, what about yourself, though, sir?
You can find me on Twitter at mretailslave and on a podcast, a big dumb comedy show called Miserable Retail Slave. It's available on all the places, so go there. Also coming soon, a Seinfeld rewatch podcast with me and my friend Maddie F. from the Flummox podcast. That's coming out soon. We've got 3 episodes recorded, but we haven't released them yet. But it's going to happen. I'm sorry.
I have faith in you, sir.
Thank you. I didn't want to sound like I was in tears. I just had a burp that was right there, and it was really hurting. So that's why I sounded
That's okay.
like I was in tears.
I get emotional about Kramer as well, sir.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I don't want to do this to you, Tom Coe, but we might double up next week because I feel like we need to cover the movie. Like last year for Valentine's Day, we covered My Bloody Valentine. Do you remember that?
I remember it well.
I think this year we also need to cover Valentine. Just Valentine, because it's a 20-year anniversary of that movie. Do you remember that at all from the early 2000s?
No, I don't.
Oh, it stars David Boreanaz, and the slasher is wearing a Cupid mask.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. I think we need to do that as well.
Let's roll the dice. Let's see where it takes us.
Okay, I like it. So, I don't know. Tune in next time and tell all your friends. If you love bad movies, or movies that are interesting or you think are interesting, we want you to suggest them to us. So send them our way, please. We gave our Twitter handles. Just shoot them at us and we might cover them. Okay? And also,
all right, I look forward to hearing from you guys.
Yeah. And also, if you're a movie fan and you know other movie fans in your life, tell them to listen to this podcast. We would appreciate it so much. Until then,
Indeed.
I am Randy. That is Tom Coe, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.